Welcome to Kunzy Podcast English, the place where you can improve your English through engaging and inspiring stories. Today, we're diving into a hot and intriguing topic, the trade war, negotiation or confrontation. Stay tuned to explore the latest developments in the trade war between the world's two largest economic powers, the U.S. and China. Part 1, There are no negotiations. Is China revealing the truth or playing a strategic game? In the volatile world of international politics and trade, sometimes a single statement can trigger an earthquake. And today, a declaration from China has sent shockwaves through observers, financial markets, and the global community. While U.S. President Donald Trump confidently asserted that trade negotiations between the U.S. and China are happening every day, delivering a message of optimism to reassure public opinion and investors. On the other side of the geopolitical chessboard, China bluntly announced, at present, there are no economic and trade negotiations taking place between China and the United States. This wasn't just a straightforward denial, it was a strategic counterpunch, a cold declaration from Beijing signaling, if the U.S. continues to apply unilateral pressure, dialogue will remain off the table. The remark came from He Yadong, spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce, who affirmed that statements from Washington were groundless and did not reflect reality. But it is precisely the contradiction between these two opposing claims that sparks a fundamental question: who is telling the truth? What lies behind this rejection? Is China sending a direct message to the core of U.S. strategy? Or is the U.S. manipulating media narratives to influence market psychology and extend its leverage in this ongoing trade war? One thing is clear, both superpowers are telling two entirely different stories about the same subject, as if two chess matches were being played simultaneously, with invisible pieces and rules no one openly declares. China's statement is not just a denial, it's a calculated move to reassert its position. China refuses to negotiate from a position of weakness, refusing to act passively in response to Washington's unilateral tariff decisions. Instead, it's setting a silent condition: to sit at the negotiation table, the punitive tariffs must first be lifted. This is psychological warfare, a step backward to prepare for a more decisive leap forward. And in a time when the world craves stability, perhaps the truth lies not entirely with either side. Both may be telling fragments of the truth, or concealing the most crucial parts. But one thing is certain, in this high-stakes game between two global giants, every word carries strategic weight. And we, the observers, can only read between the lines to uncover what's truly happening behind the closed doors of negotiation rooms and the calculated narratives of global media. Part 2, What did China say? A firm stand. In the ever-shifting world of international politics and trade, a single statement can send shockwaves across markets and media. While the global audience was still reeling from China's bold declaration that there were no ongoing trade talks with the U.S., one man unexpectedly stepped into the spotlight: He Yadong, spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce. At a routine press conference, under the glaring lights of international media, He Yadong did not hesitate. His voice was calm, but his words were sharp. There are currently no economic or trade negotiations between China and the United States, he declared, clear and uncompromising. No soft diplomatic phrasing. No room for speculation or ambiguity. Just one firm, irrefutable statement: none. But that wasn't the climax. When questioned about President Trump's comments, who had claimed that talks were happening every day, He delivered a surgical rebuttal, using the phrase, completely groundless. Short, cold, precise. Groundless meant no foundation, no fact, no truth. It wasn't just denial, it was a strategic strike. A subtle accusation that Washington was spreading misinformation. A way of saying, without saying, we refuse to be pawns in your narrative. Why would China make such a stark declaration now? The answer lies in the broader landscape of U.S.-China relations. While Washington signals openness to dialogue, it simultaneously rolls out new tariffs, tech sanctions, and policies aimed at Chinese businesses. To Beijing, this is not the environment for talks, it's coercion in disguise. And China is making it crystal clear, they will not negotiate under pressure. He Yedong wasn't just speaking for the ministry, he was voicing a strategic shift in China's public diplomacy. Gone are the days of cautious, ambiguous responses. Today, China speaks with steel in its tone, directly calling statements from the U. groundless. This is more than a rebuttal, it's a recalibration, a refusal to be passive, a stand. Chinese state media quickly echoed his message. Outlets like the Global Times emphasized that China will never negotiate from a position of weakness. One article boldly stated, China has never begged for talks. If the U. wants dialogue, it must come with mutual respect. The message was loud and clear, Beijing isn't rejecting diplomacy, they're redefining the terms. No secret deals, no invisible knives under the table. A new negotiation table must be built, equal, respectful, fair. From a media strategy standpoint, this was a masterstroke. While the U. might be aiming to calm markets and maintain investor confidence by projecting ongoing talks, China counters by controlling the narrative. They don't want the U. to shape the world's perception of events. By going public and firm, they restore balance to the information war. They shift the pressure back. This raises a crucial question. Could there be behind-the-scenes talks that China is deliberately denying for tactical reasons? Or is Beijing truly choosing confrontation over compromise, for now? We may never know the full truth, but one thing is certain, in today's global order, words are weapons. A single phrase from a government spokesperson can move stock, and trigger emergency meetings in foreign capitals. In the high-stakes game between superpowers, no word is ever just a word. Everything is calculated. Everything is strategic. So when China says, there are absolutely no negotiations, and calls you, claims, groundless, it's not just about setting the record straight. It's a message to Washington, and to the world, China will not be manipulated. If you want diplomacy, bring respect. If you want cooperation, remove threats. Otherwise, there will be nothing. Absolutely nothing. Part 3, what does the U. say? Two diverging narratives. While China firmly denies any ongoing trade negotiations with the U. President Donald Trump strongly asserts, negotiations between the two countries are happening every day. These conflicting statements, from two global superpowers, have created a complex, contradictory, and highly tense political landscape. So, who is telling the truth? And what lies behind these statements? Is this more of a media war than actual negotiations, or are these just strategic moves in a never-ending trade battle? President Trump, who has consistently claimed that trade negotiations between the U. and China are taking place every day, has injected a sense of optimism into this trade war. In numerous public statements, he has emphasized that the two countries are getting closer to an agreement, and that any differences could be resolved through negotiation. This is a clear strategy. President Trump aims to build trust, not only among the American public but also among investors and other stakeholders. With the message of, America is winning, he creates an image of a leader in control, always planning ahead and working to achieve results that benefit the country. But while Trump says negotiations are ongoing, China issued a strong and definitive statement. There are no trade negotiations taking place. This statement, delivered by He Yadong, a spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, isn't merely a denial of the U. claims, it's also a highly strategic declaration. China does not want to appear as the weaker party, eager to negotiate. They don't want to be seen as a nation that passively reacts to the U.S. unilateral tariff decisions. Instead, Beijing wants to stress that they won't negotiate under pressure and will not concede to unfair demands from Washington. So, what's really going on here? Are there quiet negotiations happening somewhere, while both sides simply use public statements to strengthen their respective positions? Or is this just an intense media battle, where each country is trying to shape the narrative to gain a strategic advantage. When we look at this situation, we can't help but ask, could this be more of a media war than actual negotiations? In today's world, where media and information can change the course of any conflict, shaping the narrative is crucial. These statements, though seemingly just words, can have a profound impact on political decisions, economic actions, and even market predictions on a global scale. President Trump continues to use media as a tool to maintain stability in the U.S. economy. By asserting that negotiations are happening, he aims to keep international confidence high and prevent any panic that might affect the markets. These statements also reflect his commitment to protecting American interests, despite criticisms and confrontations from China. On the other hand, China, through He Yadong's statement, seems to be holding firm. They're not just denying negotiations, they're also questioning the validity and accuracy of information coming from the U.S. China wants to maintain the upper hand, and they're not interested in appearing as the side that's willing to negotiate under pressure. Instead, they're making it clear that they want to negotiate on their terms. This is about reinforcing their image as a rising power that can stand firm and not be forced into unfair agreements. The question we need to ask is, could this be a long-term strategy from both sides? Or are they playing a political chess game, with each side hiding their next moves? Does China really want to negotiate? And if so, what terms would they be willing to accept? Meanwhile, is the U.S. just buying time to craft deals that are more beneficial to them while maintaining maximum pressure? One thing that's clear is that both countries are playing a clever media game. Each side is using information to create influence and strengthen support from the public and international partners. But in this game, is there a hidden truth behind these statements, or is everything just part of strategic moves aimed at achieving long-term goals? Conclusion: the truth may always lie somewhere between these two diverging narratives. The key is that we must remain alert and recognize that, in modern politics, not every word spoken reflects the full story. These powerful declarations from both the U.S. and China could simply be strategic weapons, the visible parts of an iceberg whose deeper elements are only understood by those who truly grasp the larger picture. And we, as observers, can only sit back, listen, and ask ourselves, are these negotiations really beginning with those words, or are they simply chess moves played in the shadows? Part 4, China's message: want negotiations? Remove the tariffs. As the trade war between the two superpowers, the U.S. and China, continues, a powerful message from Beijing has been sent: want negotiations? Remove the tariffs. This is not a simple or easily dismissed demand, it is a clear statement about how China wants to approach negotiations. This message came from He Yadong, the spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce, when he denied any ongoing talks between the U.S. and China. His declaration was a strong indication that China would not engage in negotiations from a position of weakness, and that any negotiations must be based on a fair and equal footing. The reason for China's demand stems from its disagreement with the unilateral tariffs imposed by the U.S. on Chinese goods throughout the trade war. These tariffs have harmed not only China's economy but also had negative effects on the global economy. What China emphasizes in this statement is that if the U.S. wants to negotiate seriously, it must first take concrete action, namely, removing the tariffs. Looking at this message, it is clear that China is not simply rejecting talks for strategic reasons. In fact, they have been very clear about their objective. Negotiations cannot happen when one side continues to exert overwhelming pressure, when every negotiating table starts from an unequal position. China is asserting that they will not sit at the table while the U.S. continues to make unilateral decisions that force them into a defensive position. While the U.S. has claimed that negotiations are happening every day, China has set a clear condition: talks must take place under fair conditions, not influenced by external factors such as tariffs. This not only represents China's hard stance, but also a strategic move to protect national interests and maintain the image of a strong economy that is not subject to pressure from unfair diplomatic or trade measures. Thus, China's demand is not just about tariffs. Behind this request is a larger message about how they want to interact in international negotiations, with respect and fairness. China wants to make it clear that they are not a country to be forced into accepting unfair deals simply due to pressure from another superpower. This is an important part of China's foreign strategy, where they not only focus on protecting economic interests but also want to show independence in their international relations. China understands that in today's global game, every nation must know how to stand firm and not fall into a position of weakness. Removing tariffs is a way for China to assert its position at the negotiating table. Looking at it from this perspective, China's message is not simply a refusal to negotiate, but a strategic demand to set the terms of those negotiations. They do not want to be seen as the weaker side at the table, but instead, they are calling for a level playing field. They are essentially saying, if you want to talk, let's do it on equal terms, without the imposition of tariffs that skew the conversation from the start. This shows that China is not only interested in economic gains but also in shaping the way negotiations happen on the world stage. They want to be treated as an equal and will not engage in talks under the shadow of unfair economic measures. By making this demand, China is reinforcing its desire to protect its sovereignty and national interests in any future trade agreement. While the EU might find it challenging to accept this demand, it is clear that China is serious about it. In the context of a tense trade war, removing tariffs may seem like a significant hurdle for the Trump administration. However, this is the challenge both sides must face, and it signals that any future negotiations cannot continue unless there are concrete steps to address the issue of tariffs. The question remains, will the EU accept China's demand? Will they be willing to remove the tariffs to pave the way for real negotiations? Or is this simply another strategic maneuver to prolong the trade war in hopes of securing a better deal for the EU? With each passing day, the answer becomes clearer. Meanwhile, China has not given up hope for dialogue. But their message is clear: any negotiations must start with a fair foundation, and if the EU truly wants to end this trade war, they need to prove their willingness to change and restore fairness in the relationship between the two nations. This shows that, even if the trade war continues, China's clear demands and strong messages will not be easily ignored. This is not just a confrontation between two countries, but a great lesson in respect, fairness, and the way nations communicate with each other in a rapidly changing, globalized world. Part 5, The Trade War Landscape, 145% tariffs and no end in sight. The trade war between the EU and China has escalated to unprecedented levels, shaking the global economy and leaving the world questioning, where does it end? The tariffs, which started off as a simple tool of negotiation, have now become one of the most significant markers of a larger, multifaceted conflict. At the heart of the confrontation lies the U.S. decision to impose tariffs as high as 145% on Chinese goods. This is not just a trade dispute anymore, this is a declaration of economic war. With these tariffs, the EU is signaling its intent to reshape the global trading system, forcing China to comply with new rules that benefit American interests. But China, not one to back down easily, has retaliated in kind, imposing its own set of tariffs up to 125% on U.S. goods. What started as a battle over trade imbalances has quickly become a high-stakes game of global power politics. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. The trade war isn't just about tariffs, it's about much more. The EU has restricted Chinese access to crucial minerals and resources, signaling that it intends to curb China's growth in sectors that are pivotal for its economic future, like rare earth metals, essential for electronics and renewable energy technologies. In retaliation, China has sought to undermine U.S. dominance by ramping up its own economic leverage. These moves go far beyond the simple matter of importing and exporting goods. They are strategic maneuvers designed to shape the global order. And it doesn't stop there. The U. has also brought the case to the World Trade Organization, WTO, challenging China's trade practices in the hope of receiving global support. This, too, is a high-stakes game. The WTO, long seen as the global referee for trade disputes, finds itself caught in the middle of this fierce power struggle. While it may have been designed to promote global cooperation and resolve disputes in a peaceful, systematic way, it now faces a challenge that could define its future relevance in the modern world. This is not just a trade dispute between two countries, it is a war that spans across multiple dimensions: economics, resources, technology, and global governance. The stakes are incredibly high, and every move on the chessboard has a ripple effect that impacts markets, governments, and industries around the world. What's at play here isn't just a battle for economic dominance but for global influence and leadership. The outcome of this trade war will determine the shape of the world economy for decades to come. As the U. and China continue to tighten the screws on one another, many are left wondering, is this just the beginning? Can the world sustain a prolonged economic battle of this magnitude? The fact that there seems to be no end in sight to these tariffs only fuels the fear that this conflict could evolve into something even more damaging. The trade war is not just about short-term economic losses or wins, it's about reshaping the very foundation of the global trading system, the rules of engagement, and the balance of power. The consequences of this war are already being felt worldwide. Global supply chains are being disrupted, businesses are scrambling to adapt, and the financial markets are showing signs of uncertainty. Countries that have historically relied on both the U. and China as key trading partners are now forced to choose sides or find ways to mitigate the damage to their own economies. For these nations, the ongoing trade war feels like a no-win situation, caught between two economic giants whose struggles could cause ripples that reach every corner of the globe. At the same time, the broader geopolitical implications are equally profound. This trade war is not just a disagreement over tariffs, it's about the future of international diplomacy, power structures, and the way nations interact with one another in the 21st century. As China and the U. engage in this high-stakes battle, the rest of the world watches carefully. Countries that were once seen as neutral in the global trade landscape now find themselves forced to take sides or find alternative trading routes. The ripple effects of the tariffs are far-reaching and create a sense of uncertainty that the world has not seen in recent decades. But perhaps the most unsettling question remains: where does this end? The tariffs continue to rise, the rhetoric becomes more heated, and the stakes get higher. Will both sides reach a diplomatic resolution, or will this trade war escalate into something far more dangerous? The lack of clear communication, the growing distrust, and the increasingly aggressive measures from both sides paint a picture of a conflict with no clear resolution in sight. And as this battle continues to unfold, the world is left holding its breath, wondering what the future of global trade will look like in a world where economic warfare seems to be the new norm. The truth is, the U.-China trade war is more than just a series of tariffs and trade negotiations. It is a defining moment in global history, a battle that will shape the economic and geopolitical landscape for years to come. In this high-stakes game, there are no clear winners yet, and with each new move, both sides are betting their future on the outcome. And for the rest of the world, it's a waiting game, as the balance of power continues to shift in real time, changing the course of global economics and international relations. This is not simply a trade conflict, it's a fight for the future of global influence. And as the world watches and waits, we are all left to wonder, who will emerge victorious in this monumental trade war, and what will the world look like once it's over? Part 6. Negotiation or confrontation. In the growing tension between the world's two largest economic powers, the question of the true purpose of this trade war has become increasingly complex. Negotiation or confrontation? That's a question that requires deep thought. This war is not merely about tariffs or economic measures. Behind the statements and criticisms lies a strategic chess game being played by both the U. And China, with goals far bigger than what meets the eye. President Donald Trump has declared that negotiations are ongoing daily, which gives the impression of a positive signal, raising hopes for a possible détente in the trade war. However, from China's side, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Commerce strongly rejected this, asserting that there are no negotiations at all. They even called statements baseless and entirely untrue. This contradiction is not just a standoff between two parties. It is a clear tactic from Beijing. China does not want to be forced into a weak position, nor does it wish to negotiate under the pressure of unilateral tariffs from the EU. We cannot deny that this is a battle between two economic superpowers, but there's one crucial point that must be fully understood: this is not merely a conflict of numbers, tariffs, or trade policies. This is a battle for power, influence, and strategy. Because in the modern world, every economic decision is linked to politics. And when the trade game is played on the foundation of power, every statement, every declaration can become a sophisticated strategy. From Trump's use of public statements to put pressure on China, to China's reaction by denying any talks, both sides know this war is not just about securing a fair trade deal. It's about proving who has the bigger power, who holds the greater influence on the global stage. In this strategic game, the question remains, who will blink first? While the EU is proactively applying pressure to force China to make concessions, China refuses to accept any negotiation under the threat of tariffs. This creates a stalemate where neither side is willing to back down easily. And this is where we need to ask, is this war really about reaching a trade deal, or is it more about the power struggle between two nations, each wanting to control the narrative? What makes this war so intriguing is the way each side uses strategic tools to achieve their goals. The EU utilizes the media, official statements from top leaders, to pressure China, while China plays a cautious game, insisting they will only negotiate from a position of strength, refusing to accept any pressure from the EU. And no matter who is right or wrong, one thing is clear: this is not just a trade war. It is a full-scale confrontation over power, influence, and the future of the world's largest economies. The open question here is, can a fair trade deal actually exist between these two superpowers? Or, in reality, is this war just a strategic showdown, with each side using every weapon available to gain the upper hand? With conflicting statements from both sides, it's hard to determine what the truth is, and whether a deal can be reached without a significant shift from either side. Finally, there's a big question that we all have to think about: who will step back in this game? Will the EU be willing to remove tariffs, or will China be forced to make concessions under the pressure of EU policies? Regardless of what happens, one thing is certain: this trade war is far from simple. It is a calculated strategic battle, and it will not be easy to draw a final conclusion about who wins and who loses. So, while we wait for a resolution, we can only continue to observe, analyze, and ask ourselves, can a truly fair agreement exist in a war where both sides want to protect their maximum interests, no matter the cost? Thank you for listening to Kunzy Podcast English today. If you found today's topic interesting and useful, don't forget to like, share, and comment to share your thoughts with us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on our upcoming engaging podcasts. We're always ready to bring you interesting and valuable content to help you improve your English every day. Thank you, and see you in the next episodes.